We got the pleasure to have Dr. Richard Orlando, the President and CEO of Legacy Capitals, with us today. And today we're going to be discussing the success of families of wealth with transferring wealth from one generation to the next, and how vitally important it is to have a collaboration amongst the very important parts of the team, being the CPA, trust and estate attorney, wealth manager, private banker, life insurance advisor, and risk manager. And Dr. Orlando has a good 25 years of experience with working with families of significant assets, and we're just gonna pick his mind today and kind of see what's worked and some successful actions and what hasn't. And I'm just really glad that you're willing to share with us today.
It's good to be here, and you're right, this is a very important question to the families that we serve and to the advisors that serve them. Because from the team perspective, you use one of the best words, the collaborative nature of the team. Whether it's a formal self-contained team, like a private wealth management team, or a family office team, or a virtual team, which is some combination of all of what you're seeing here on the screen. The family might have their attorney and their CPA kind of in their inner circle, and then also have on their team their private wealth manager, their life insurance specialist, and so forth. So the ability for all parties to communicate for the family is very important. Now, obviously, there's some specifics in there that are relevant, right? So if you're an attorney or any other professional position where there's some obligation of confidentiality, clearly the client will have to give permission on what is shared or not shared. But generically speaking, and most importantly, the ability for that whole team to collaborate, to know the relevant parts of what everyone's doing so that the family is best served by having a holistic plan is really crucial. And that planning component, the estate planning, the financial planning, the insurance planning, all of those planning components comprise the major pieces of helping a family successfully transfer businesses and transfer wealth across the generations.
Got it. So Rich, wealth transfer is obviously a very technical, there's a technical aspect to it, but then there's also a softer side to the conversation. And in our experience, we have been having deeper conversations with other professional advisors, CPAs, trust and estate attorneys, wealth managers. And how important is the communication, one, amongst team members, but then secondly, the communication amongst family members about the intentions of the plan moving forward?
Yeah, so that softer side of the planning, which I'd like to say is the harder side of the planning, the stuff that's not easily put into a formula or into a calculator or an Excel spreadsheet, the part that maybe in the attorney world that we would call the letter of wishes, is very, very important. As a matter of fact, that component, we'll call that legacy planning. That softer side of the planning has been shown to be the biggest reason why wealth transfers successfully across generations or does not. As a matter of fact, we like to call that the business of the family. So in addition to all the incredibly not only relevant, if all the other planning was not done right, then there's nothing to talk about with the family. But the research has shown that wealth managers, attorneys, all the other professionals that help in the planning, they 99% of the time do an unbelievable job. The softer part, which is the one least addressed, the legacy planning, that's the part that has been the Achilles heel for the success of transferring wealth. Therefore, the team here that we're seeing, it's very important that somewhere in that team there is a skill set and an intention that in the plan that they're asking the family about what's the vision of the wealth. In addition to the expectations, the goal-based planning, or the expectations of return against risk levels, it's also the vision, the mission of the wealth. What's the purpose of the wealth for the family, whether it's in their giving, whether it's in their learning, whatever it might be, whether it's in their investing, what's the purpose? How do the families communicate around that wealth? How do they make decisions around that wealth? Because in every family, we know that even though they're family, they don't all see eye to eye, nor do they all have the same level of competence.
You know, Rich, I'm glad that you're bringing that up. What are some of the ways that you help work with families to kind of eliminate some of those, or kind of mitigate some of those concerns? You know, we hear all the time in the news and in industry magazines, you hear family meetings. They throw them around very loosely. Why don't you share with me what a successful family meeting entails, and what other advisors, CPAs, trust and estate attorneys, all the people that's on that board next to you, what they should be looking at when they're really working with families that have significant wealth, and how they should be looking at maybe trying to coordinate what the industry calls a family meeting.
Sure. Everything I do when I am brought in by an advisor, whatever combination of advisors there are, is I do everything in partnership with them. It's their client, I'm there to help serve their client. The family meeting, many of these advisors are doing some form of a family meeting. They're informing various members of a family about something. They're having maybe conversations with different parts of the family, whether it's mom and dad or maybe an adult son, whatever it might be, the spouse. The advisors almost always are doing some version of speaking to more than one person. But I think what you're asking is really what the intention or greater purpose of a family meeting is to really bring the conversation to another level. And how we do that when we're brought in to partner with an advisor team or an advisor who's serving a family of wealth is it's really at least 2 generations of the family in the room. Sometimes it's 3 generations, but it's at least 2 generations of family members in a room. And the agenda should be built for the family, not for any one member of the family, although almost always this one family member that's kind of the catalyst for bringing the family together, whether it's the matriarch. And I'm thinking, I'll give you an example of a family meeting that I did last year, where it was a matriarch of the family. She was in her 80s, very vibrant, and many, many years ago she set up a trust and put a number of assets in it, including a location, a real estate, a home, with the vision of her grandchildren one day having a place to be together. So her purpose for putting this asset and then supporting assets to keep the real estate piece going into the trust was so that the family could stay together 2 generations later. Speed up the clock, I'm now brought in through the advisor. We're doing a family meeting with the matriarch, and now she has 30-plus-year-old grandchildren. And what was happening is most of the grandchildren who loved and honored the matriarch was not using that other home, which her wishes were that they would. And so through our planning, our process is that anyone who's going to be at a family meeting, we have one-on-one time with. Because we really see the family as our client, not an individual member. So I first cleared what was most important to the matriarch. What was her goals, what was her vision, what was in the trust document, what was possible, what was irrevocable. And then spoke to all the other family members that were going to be in the meeting. In this case, it was Generation 3, some of Generation 2, and their spouses. Just to summarize, what ultimately happened was the matriarch had already given permission that if the 3rd generation, in this case, or her grandchildren, decided that that location to be together was not the ideal location, she was okay with changing, in essence, what was in the trust. So we had to go through a governance process that said, how will they make this decision whether to stay with that property, invest in it, or sell it? And in this case, they ultimately decided that they would keep it. And any decisions that were made on it had to have a majority vote amongst the generations. And if they wanted to sell it, it had to be a unanimous vote. So this ability to talk across generations that combines both real assets and the other family assets of human capital, social capital, spiritual capital, these other things that, in this case, the matriarch wanted to have happen in her family was still kept intact, as well as the wealth. And so the family meeting really serves, that's an example, the family meeting really serves a purpose to address the values, the wishes, and the priorities of the family, and we do that as one of the major ways the family does that, and how we lead it is through family meetings.
Thank you. Rich, just one last question so we can kind of, bring it to a close, the conversation, is, we're speaking about all these different advisors and working in a collaboration approach, which ultimately enhances and benefits the client. Because at the end of the day, communication is usually what breaks apart families, or a breakdown in communication. And just from our experience at Wealth and Legacy Group, we have recognized that the breakdown in communication amongst advisors creates the dissension amongst all the advisors and the family. What are ways that you can give to the CPAs, trust and estate attorneys, wealth managers, anyone that may be watching this video that's on our website, that they can initiate a conversation, one, and then the second part of that would be, how can they get in contact with you if they were to need a more advanced or a more hand-holding with that family to create some, create more success or significance for that matter?
Yeah, so you're right. So communication has been a theme, I think, of this conversation a bit here, in that I think here's what I would say to any advisor who is asking the question you're asking. Keep the clients first, keep them first in your mind, and what's the best way to serve them. Secondly, then ask, how can I contribute to that in the ways that I'm doing and beyond? And if beyond means either quarterbacking other resources and other advisors to the relationship, that would be great. Or if there are other advisors in the relationship, which there almost always are, however formal or informal that might be, in other words, a single family office, or just the family has different relationships with different firms, is to be able to proactively, with, again, the permission of the client, either set up a meeting where the advisors are part of that meeting. As a matter of fact, going back to the family meeting idea, the family meeting is not only a great opportunity for the family, it's an awesome opportunity for advisors. Because,
I'm sorry to interrupt
Sure.
you, but to that point, what we have found is when we're working with other advisory teams, whether it be the accountant, trust and estate attorney, or other, what we have found is when we do engage and we bring everyone to the table, and the conversation is no longer about their specific discipline, what we've found that the families that we're working with are tremendously benefiting from the collaboration as a team approach. So I bring that up is because I think that to really truly create a really favorable generational wealth transfer plan, there really needs to be that collaboration. And I just, I know you have 25 years in the business of working with families of wealth and working with advisory teams from all different disciplines. And I'm just, just really wanted to just see what some of those successful actions were.
yeah, and you're right. That could happen two ways, right? It could be the family instigating, bringing their advisors together, but I think it's better if the advisors instigate getting everyone around the table to collaborate and to communicate. And yeah, so here's an example of how I've seen it done. Is let's start with a private wealth advisor who's doing a lot of things in the family, but largely the whole investment and portfolio construction for the family. Let's say it's during tax season. Well, not only are they sharing the information they need to, so that the family's tax attorney could do the right work with the right data, obviously, but they'll also call a meeting together so that there's more than one advisor around the team, so that the family is getting the whole picture, and that each advisor, left hand knows what the right hand's doing, each allowing the other to do their job and deliver their expertise. But by learning what the others are doing, it helps ensure that there's one consistent plan for the family. And doing that planning, it's going to help the family, and it's going to help in the wealth transfer.
Well, Richard, thank you. I really appreciate the time. Just so if anyone who's looking at this video wants to get in contact with you, how can they reach you?
Go to the website, Legacy Capitals, with an S, legacycapitals.com, and you can have a lot of information there and our contact information.
Great, thank you.
Thanks for
And
having me.
you're welcome. And if anyone's interested in learning more about our company, it's Wealth and Legacy Group. That's Wealth and spelt out legacygroup.com. Thank you for joining us. Have a great day. Bye-bye.